Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Mel and I am a yarn dyer living on the Orkney Islands off the north coast of Scotland. And if you are a returning viewer, then welcome back, and if you're a new viewer, then you are very welcome here and thank you for watching. Today's episode, I am not doing a podcast, I am doing a kind of a topical video, and it is the garments I would like, or not just garments, but projects I would like to knit through this spring. We are into March now and spring season, so up here it's kind of March, April, May, or that's kind of how I like to break up the year. I don't really think of February as spring, for example, so I would like to kind of move on to spring knits. And at this time of year I tend to associate spring with the colours of green and yellow, so I have a fair amount of green and yellow in my knitting plans, because up here on the Orkney Islands there isn't a lot of greenery and foliage out until much later in the year, but there is a lot of daffodils, and that's kind of what I've come to associate with the spring. There isn't just green and yellow here, but there is a high prominence, I would say. So these are the knitting projects I would like to start working on over the next 3 months and hopefully finish as many as possible. And I will just pop the pattern picture up here somewhere on the screen as I talk through them and show the yarns that I plan to use. So first up is actually a pattern that unfortunately you can't get anymore, but I have knit one of before in the past. It is the Ichabod Cardigan by Andy Satterland, and I'm planning to use this yarn, which is King Cole Forest, and it is King Cole Forest recycled Aran, and it is a 35% wool, 20% acrylic, 20% polyamide, 25% viscose, and it is supposed to be an Aran weight, but it kind of looks more like a DK weight. But I have done a swatch and it does work up at an Aran weight gauge. It's just a very lightweight yarn. When it's blocked it kind of blooms a little bit, but not much, but it still kind of knits up at an Aran weight fabric. It's very strange. It's not just plain green, and it has little neps of different colours throughout, so there are little bits of blue and a bright green and red and such like, so it kind of gives it a little bit of a almost a semi-solid effect, even though it isn't semi-solid, and it's not really like a true tweed because they're very, very fine flecks. And the colour that I've chosen is Grizzledale Forest. I actually have some more of this in a dark charcoaly grey for my husband with the multicoloured flecks in that he chose. When I will get around to that I don't know, because although I would consider him personally knit worthy in the fact because he's my husband and I adore him, but he doesn't wear his knitted items that I made for him very often. Is one of those things, he doesn't want to ruin them. He wants to like keep them, like, because he does a lot of outdoor stuff on the small holding. We have a small holding, I think in the US you would call it a very small homestead. He doesn't want to ruin them, and like today he's been out welding a trailer, so obviously he's not going to wear his knitwear for that, or so it makes it, he doesn't wear it as often as I would like to warrant knitting a number of garments for him. So that is my first item I plan to knit this spring. Next up we're going to kind of move slightly away from the green for a while, and I got some yarn last year at the yarn festival formerly known as Perth Festival of Yarn, and now is the Scottish Yarn Festival. I got 4 skeins of this yarn. Well, I got 1 skein each of 4 colours on this base, I should say, which look absolutely gorgeous. Let me see if they're so floppity because of the yarn base. Let me try and kind of hold all 4 so that I can get my camera to focus on them properly. They are all 4 semi-solids with some little speckles here and there, and the yarn base, if I can remember rightly, is it labelled, is alpaca, cashmere, silk. 70% alpaca, 20% cashmere, and 10% silk. These are from Nervous Fibre. Nervous Fibre. She's a relatively new Scottish yarn dyer, and she does some gorgeous colours, especially her semi-solids. I really love her semi-solids. Even though I'm a yarn dyer, you still always buy other dyers' yarns. And when I was at Perth, she had a sample knit up of the Stripes sweater by Andrea Mari in these colours. So I bought the 3 colours that she had left on the stall and got her to dye me up the 4th one. I think the 4th one was possibly the gold that she had sold out of. So that was the original plan, but instead I've changed my mind. I'm still going to knit a striped sweater, but I decided I didn't want a round yoke sweater. I have a fair few of them, and I really wanted a raglan. I love my round yoke sweaters, but I really like a raglan sweater as well. So I decided, instead of doing a round yoke striped sweater, which looks fine, I thought it would be more flattering for a raglan for the stripes. Because I'm quite busty, the round yoke stripes I thought would just make me look even bustier, basically. So I decided with the raglan, and I decided to go with a completely different design, but use the same kind of stripe widths as the striped sweater on the Andrea Mari, so you know, sort of about inch stripes, but in the raglan design. And the pattern that I decided to use was the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. I have not actually knit the Flax Light. I have knit the Flax Sweater, the chunkier weight yarn. I think it's a worsted weight, arrow weight, I don't remember. But I've decided to do the Flax Light, which is a fingering weight. And what I will do is I will omit the garter panels down the sleeves and just knit them stockinette. And I'm basically just using it for the stitch count, and you know, so I get all the raglan stitches and stuff in the right place. But I will be knitting stripes. So that is the plan for those yarns, and I am actually really itching to cast this on. I think the only reason I haven't so far is the fact that I have to actually cake up all the yarns. I can't just cake up one either, because I will only be to knit an inch and then I'll need to cake up the next one. So I've got to wind them all into cakes at the same time and before I can cast that on. But that is the Flax Light. Okay, next up, I have a fair few garments that I want to knit on, because I am on a bit of a garment knitting kick, but there are a particular set of accessories I would like to make. Well, I say a set, a pair, and that is the Wishmaker Mittens by, I do have my notes, I can't even read my own writing. It is Erica, okay, I had to look on Ravelry because I couldn't read my own writing. It is Erica Husa, and the pattern is the Wishmaker Mittens, like I said, and I plan to knit these in Drops Flora. So I have my hair all over this, but I bought the pattern. I don't remember if it's a bought pattern or a free pattern. I've had the pattern in my library for a while, and I've had the yarn for it for a while, probably 4 or 5 years. And the colours I'm planning to use are number 15 for the background, which is a nice soft sage green. Well, yeah, it's nearly sage, it's not quite sage. And number 1, and these are Drops Flora, which is 65% wool, 35% alpaca. And what I plan to do is use some of the yarn for the design on the wrists instead of the white, possibly just some leftovers like this. This is leftovers of one of my own hand dyed yarns in the colourway Pumpkin Picking, which I think will look quite nice. It'll be with that one, not the white. Just in the kind of border parts on the cuffs and at the end of the where the fingers are. Yep, so that is the Wishmaker Mittens. Okay, next up is an actual Andrea Mari pattern, and it is the Pink Fizz sweater. And I've still got to choose between 2 yarns for this. They're very, very similar, to be perfectly honest. They're both my own hand dyed yarns. So I have this one in the colourway Carnation, which has got quite a bit of pink in it and some gold and burgundy. And the other one is this colourway, which is Yuletide Felicitations, which has got more of a kind of a plummy burgundy, and it has gold speckles and a little bit of green speckling too. And I will be holding whichever main colour with an undyed silk mohair to make it fluffy. So yeah, I can't decide between the two yet, mostly because I also want to hold one of these two double with a different yarn. So I need to choose which one I want to hold double with this, which is a colourway I did for the Perth Now Scotch Yarn Festival Collaboration Club in the colourway Hounds of Love. And I want to hold that double with one of these, so either with this one, which I think would be really nice, or with the other one. So I need to decide which one. I suspect I would probably rather to hold those two double and then use this one to do the pink fizz, but I'm not sure, which is kind of why I've not really probably wouldn't have cast on yet, but kind of prepared and got everything together. So that's that decision to make. Next up we have another garment, and this one I'm kind of I'm kind of combining two patterns. So I bought the pattern for the Ichabod Cardigan by Linnea Ornstein about 5 years ago when I bought a load of yarns, and I plan to use these 3 yarns for the design. This green in Drops Nepal, and the white and the yellow in Drops Nepal too. So the green is colourway 7238, the white is 1101, and the yellow is 2923. But I hadn't realised when I bought this pattern that the size range was absolute rubbish. I think there are 3 sizes, and the largest is 112 centimetres, which I think is 44-inch bust. And that's without taking into the fact any positive ease you might want in the garment. It is not good. So I do have the pattern, but what I'm planning to do is use the colourwork chart from the pattern. And I am going to use it because I do have the yarn and I do have the pattern and I want to use it and I still like the design, and I'm going to put the colourwork chart into the numbers for the Skogafjall sweater by Diana Waller, which I knit recently, and I will just sub out the colourwork chart and basically knit the Skogafjall sweater but with this colour chart in, the Åland colour chart instead of the colourwork trees design that it actually has. So that is the plan for another garment. Next up is a pair, in fact this is the last one I'm going to specifically plan to knit this spring. I mean, I'm sure other things will I'll be tempted to cast on, is a pair of socks, and this is kind of dependent on if I finish my vanilla socks that I still have in a project bag from the last couple of months. So I would like to knit potentially the Longing for Spring socks by Kawa Coffee. I'm not sure. There's very little information about the designer, but they have a lot of sock designs, and it has little lace, little fairies, little flowers, and I have a couple of options for this. My first choice was to use this yarn that I bought many years ago from Edinburgh, and it is a variegated sock yarn. I'm a little concerned that you might lose the lacework in this, so I will have to do a little quick test swatch just to check. And this one is by the Knitting Goddess, and it is a 75/25 Blueface Leicester nylon sock yarn in the colourway Flower Power. Now if this ends up not working out for me, I think it'll be okay because it is mostly green, but we shall see. But I have another option, again by the Knitting Goddess, and It is a semi-solid green, and this one is actually a mohair based sock yarn. It is 75% superwash BFL, Blueface Leicester, and 25% mohair in the colourway green. It is just colourway green, again by the Knitting Goddess. I'm struggling for focus today, but it'll be fine. So that is another option, and it is just a really nice semi-solid mid-green, and it has a lovely fluffy halo to it. I have never actually knit socks with a mohair base, you know, with a mohair instead of nylon, so I'm not sure how well they will hold up. But if I find they are not wearing so well, and I do have another cake in a different colour, in a kind of a pinky burgundy, then I will just use them for, you know, after shower socks while you're watching TV on an evening sort of thing, kind of like sitting around socks as opposed to walking around the house all day kind of socks. So I do have a backup option. Plus I have plenty of other sock yarns. I'm sure I could find something, or any other kind of leftover half skein or 3/4 skein left over from another project in some colour that I could use for these socks. I actually have the other skein of the mohair to hand. It's looking quite bright on screen, but I did buy these 3 to work together. So the plan originally was to do a sock with this yarn with contrast toes and heels in this colour, and a sock with this yarn with contrast toes and heels with this colour, which would use approximately 25 grams of each, and would leave enough of each of these semi-solids to do a pair of socks in each colour. So a plain pinky red one and a plain green one. So I do have options. So that is all of my knitting plans for this spring. Many garments, which was going to take up a fair amount of knitting time, although the Aran weight sweater hopefully won't take very long at all. I mean, my previous Skog and Fjall didn't take long, and I will be knitting this cardigan in the round. I will be steeking it, I won't be knitting it flat, so it'll fly along. Once I get past the yoke, it's gonna fly. And the stripes raglan, the flax light, is going to be fairly quick too, because it's just straight stockinette knitting basically. So I'm really looking forward to cracking on with them, and yeah, looking forward to some longer days and some lighter evenings where I can get more knitting done, where I can actually see what I'm doing a little better. So I will see you on the next video, and yeah, bye bye.